To skip breakfast or not to skip breakfast? That is the question we are answering today on Diabetes 180. For those of you joining for the first time, my name is Bertus. I'm a physician assistant and diabetes reversal health coach. So the topic that we are discussing is definitely a popular one. There's a whole lot of studies that correlate skipping breakfast to gaining weight. And so, is this correlation scientific or is it behavioral? Behavioral meaning, are people who eat later in the day or making bad food choices, like, eating chips on the couch while watching TV? Is this the reason why skipping breakfast tends to point to higher rates of obesity? Or is there a biological reason? And this is what the question we are going to be answering in today's video. And also I should put in that we're also talking about regulating your blood sugar levels as well, because meal timing also is important if you want to maximize your sensitivity to insulin. But let's first describe what chronobiology means based on an NIH or National Institute of Health definition. So according to the National Institute of Health, chronobiology is the study of biological rhythms. It examines the effects of time on biological events and internal biological clocks. So for a long time, we've understood that there is a central clock between the optic nerve. So in our brain, when we receive a signal, that is the rising of the sun, especially bright morning sunlight, it triggers the beginning of a new day. So our body can cycle on a regular basis of 24-hour cycles from sunrise to sunset, and then sun rising the next day starts a new 24-hour cycle. This is called the central clock. But recent science also shows there's a peripheral clock, meaning the other tissues in our body, the various organs of our body, also operate under a clock system. And this clock system operates even outside of daylight and sunrise and sunset. So what's interesting is that these body cells, all of the cells all throughout our body, known as our peripheral tissues, operate under food intake as a trigger for its biological clock. Meaning the cells in our body operate not the way that the central clock operates. It operates based on your meal time. So it is so important to learn how to eat to keep your central and peripheral system, your whole body, in sync. We know that night shift workers have higher rates of diabetes, obesity, heart disease, and even cancer. But is this because they work at night? Does it have anything to do with their meals? Well, there was an experiment that was conducted called the graveyard shift experiment. And they took a group of people and placed them on the same diet. They all ate the same meals at the same time of day, that is in the evening at 8 p.m. And it's amazing what happened. 1/3 of the study subjects were turned effectively pre-diabetic in 10 days. That means they went from normal, non-diabetic, to 10 days later being pre-diabetic, just simply eating all their meals at 8 p.m. So we know there is definitely importance to knowing when to time your meals. Another interesting study took a group of people who habitually skipped breakfast and they had them eat breakfast. So they had them start their day with breakfast at 8 a.m., a lunch at 1 p.m., and dinner at 6 p.m. This was compared to another group that ate their meals at 1 p.m., 6 p.m., and 11 p.m., so later on in the day. And compared to the two groups, the group that started their day with breakfast at 8 a.m. had improved cholesterol and triglyceride levels during the period of this study. So we know there is definitely an important factor to eating your breakfast and starting your meals early in the day. There's another aspect to this, and that is how should you construct your meals throughout the day. So you've probably heard, or maybe you haven't, a principle called eat like a king, dine like a prince, and end the day like a pauper. So according to this principle, do you get better weight loss and blood sugar and cholesterol levels, all markers of health, from eating your biggest meal early in the day? Well, a study was performed to test that. It was called Timing of Food Intake Predicts Weight Loss Effectiveness. And in this study, dieters eating their main meal earlier in the day seemed to steadily lose more weight than those eating their main meal at a later time. In this study, the Israeli research on meal timing, group one of two groups was given 700 calorie breakfast, a 500 calorie lunch, and a 200 calorie dinner. Breakfast like a king, lunch like a prince, dinner like a pauper. A second group switched it around and had 200 calories for breakfast, 500 calories for lunch, and 700 calories for dinner. Now, obviously, both groups are not eating many calories, so they should both experience weight loss, and they did. But the difference was the group one lost a lot more weight during that 12-week period. During that 12-week period, group one lost 19 pounds compared to the 8 in group two. Group one also had the added benefits of experiencing 2 inches off their waist. And for a lot of us, that's good news. Just switching not just the timing of your meals, but the quantity of those meals also is important. Learning to eat your I should say front load your intake so that you're eating more food early in the day and less as the day goes on. One of the reasons this works is because of the concept of thermogenesis. Thermogenesis is basically the energy that your body uses to break down or metabolize meals. So for example, if you have 1,000 calories, it may take 200 calories to metabolize that meal. So the net is 800 calories. And what studies have shown is that what you eat early in the morning actually takes more calories to metabolize than later in the evening. So for example, again, if you had 1,000 calories for breakfast, it might take, 200 to 300 calories to process that. But that same exact meal in the evening takes up to 50% less energy to break down, meaning you have more calories left over that can be turned into fat. One of the interesting things about this is that there's a reason for this madness, right? The body is basically investing energy for the day. When you start the day, the body knows that your muscles need energy for the activities it's about to take on. So it takes a lot of time and energy to invest in taking that meal, that breakfast, and chaining the glucose molecules together into glycogen, which is the storage form of energy in your muscles, so that it's going to burn more energy in that meal in the morning than it would in that same meal in the evening. And this is also highlighting a very important fact for diabetics. Your body gets less sensitive to insulin as the day goes on, or I should say your body becomes more and more resistant to insulin, especially in the evening compared to the morning. So you should be eating the bulk of your meals in the morning if you want to maximize your sensitivity to insulin. In another meal timing study, blood sugars rose twice as high when the meal was eaten at 8 p.m. versus when it was eaten at 8 a.m. You heard me right, twice as high with the same meal eaten at a different time in the day. Another interesting meal timing study took people and had them take a glucose tolerance test. And a person could test normal early in the morning, but pre-diabetic later in the day. And another study, fasting blood sugar levels in adults with prediabetes were lower when they ate within an 8 to 5 p.m. window than when they ate from a 12 to 9 p.m. window. So when you think about chronobiology, it makes sense when you look at the extent of our human existence on Earth. Most of our time on Earth, we did not have all this artificial light keeping us awake and keeping us active during the late evening hours. For the most time on Earth, we were spent doing most of our activities during the day. So it makes sense our body is maximizing energy during its most active hours and trying to put the body to relax and rest during the evening, and so conserve energy. So there's 2 things I think should be a good takeaway if you're diabetic, if you're trying to lose weight, if you're trying to come off medications. Number 1, try to make sure that you're eating your meals earlier in the day. So from 8 a.m., 7 a.m., or whenever time you wake up, don't skip breakfast. And so that being said, there's a second principle that should also be applied. That's the King Prince Pauper rule: eating the majority of your foods, or I should say the majority of your calories earlier in the day versus in the evening. Now, of course, if you're practicing intermittent fasting, there's definitely going to be benefits to that, regardless of the time you're doing it, but you're going to do a lot more when it comes to weight loss and blood sugar control if you can fast in the evening versus fasting in the morning. So I hope this all makes sense to you. I know there's a lot of science in this. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me. I'll be happy to support in any way I can. And don't forget to like and subscribe so you can keep a track when we put out videos every week. And as always, beloved, I pray above all things that you may prosper and be in good health, even as your soul prospers. See you next week.